Hello, everybody. I'm MoreGravity. Let's play chess. Today, for playing chess, we are actually going to be reviewing and analyzing a chess game that I finished about an hour ago um, through move 23, and then played against a computer for the remainder of the moves till checkmate, all the way through to checkmate. I won this game, and I'm really psyched about having the opportunity now to present it here to you. I had white, French defense. This is an accelerated pan-off attack, or it's similar to an accelerated pan-off attack. I should say better. This is the French defense Steiner variation. And both sides are vying for control of the center in the early going here quite directly. And I initiate some pawn captures in the middle here to open the board up and maybe form an attack based off of corner tactics. The queen and the bishop go sort of towards the corner and have some attacks against black's king. White's queenside knight is often in the action. Even the kingside knight for white often gets into the action here. So we get things underway with bishop b5 check. This is a solid move to block. It is we're pinning. Black's pinning his knight, but it's not a bad pin. It will break either once black at some point castles either direction, or perhaps with bishop d7. White might choose to back off with pawn moves like a6 to put the question to the light squared bishop, and following up with b5 to put the question again and move my bishop back from whence thou came. I play queen d4. This might be slightly out of range, but it's in keeping with my plan, so I have no problem with queen a4. Sorry, queen a4 here is quite righteously within my plan to dominate the corner early and win material from that. Knight e7. It's an okay move. We see that the computer annotator gives knight e7 the rating of a good move, and I'd say that's probably fine. But does black really want to block in his dark squared bishop like that? I mean, maybe the knight's kind of hot-footed off to some other destination soon enough. But when I see knight e7 here, I'm thinking the knight on e7 is going to protect the knight on c6. That's, this pinned piece and tactics that could be dangerous as a result are real interesting and dangerous feat for black. But I still think black could get his bishop out. Black could get his, her, or they bishop out earlier, before knight e7, so that it's not blocked in like that, preventing kingside castling and other options. So knight e7, the computer annotator gives this a good move, but by my opinion, this is either an inaccuracy or a mistake. So black has played knight e7. White continues with the plan here to play kingside castles. I grappled with a similar, visually similar problem, but very different in many ways. I have no pawn, I have no pinned knight or pinned piece. But I had thought of knight to e2 and let these knights be very strong defensively on e2 and c3, protecting each other. Ultimately, I went with knight f3. Mostly it stops the d4 pawn, White will have no problem castling in either event with knight on e2 or knight on f3. So overall, I think knight on f3 was a fine move. Let's see here. Let's expand the. Whoops. What did I do? Let's expand how deeply and how broadly Stockfish analyzes the position. Because I want to see if knight to e2 would have been on its list of best moves at this juncture. Yeah, so it's another move. It's a decent move. But knight f3 right on the button, computer best move. So no problem with that either. All right, a6, right, putting the question to the bishop, and if you're going to play corner tactics against the French defense or the Caro-Kann, using a Panov attack or what we saw earlier, anything like that, you are going to want to, as either side, but especially if you use this regularly as white, you're going to want to take note of when the a6 pawn is pinned, or sometimes even a7 pawn is pinned. When is that pawn pinned, and when is that pawn not pinned? Right now, the a6 pawn is pinned. Capturing, right now it's black's turn to move. Black could capture on b5 and be glad to be up a full bishop, but short-lived is such gladness because immediately queen takes a8 and the bishop blocks any attempts by black to recapture material. And have black would be in the plus for a bishop and white in the plus for a rook. White has won the exchange. All right. Bishop e6. This is creating a very solid defense in front of black's king. I think it's an excellent move. I would switch, as Stockfish has this as the best move. I would say that's an excellent move. I think the best move might be bishop to g4. Except, are we then enticing white to play an aggressive move against the knight at c6, who's already in peril? My idea was, if bishop g5 or bishop g4, and then white drops the bishop away from b5, then the exchanges could occur. And I guess, okay, so it's the white light squared bishop that recaptures and not the g2 pawn, and so this is not good for black. Were black able to find a way to recapture in this moment if black can capture the knight on f3 and force a recapture with the g pawn, now look at this board here with black to move. So it's black to move. Let's take a moment and think about this. Of the 6 fundamental forces that I espouse, many of which I learned from Grandmaster Yasser Sarouan in his book series Play Winning Chess. So it's black's turn to move. And I would say the initiative is even considering that it is black's turn to move. I consider the initiative overall to be even. Black will make a move, but he's got a pinned piece. He's behind and getting castled in his... so his maybe just about even. Next up, mobility. White has mobility on black here. He can pin a second piece at a moment's notice. He's pinning a piece. He has a knight on c3 that's quite mobile, or at least will be soon after something is done about d5. The bishop on d3 is kind of odd looking, but he's in the game in a moment's notice, and he can make way for pawn moves to help white develop without impairing mobility on the part of white. Black, in terms of mobility, has a decent queen, and maybe you would consider this knight if he moves to g6, but then we're lessening the protection on c6. So white has black in mobility. So even in initiative, white has the lead in mobility. On the clock, move number 9. Clock's about even. Yeah, dead even. Or almost dead even. And material shows as equal as well. Space. Technically, the space behind the pawns. I'm okay with that. Partially too because white technically has no space here, and so that's a thing. And king safety. In the short term, black has bad king safety. But if black's able to get in maybe a Fiend Shadow on the king side and then castle, black will be the one with better king safety, and white has a long-term king safety issue on the king side here where he's castled. Yeah, overall I think the computer likes black here because a lot of these things aren't pronounced leads, and this impairment on the F file from F2 to F3, these doubled pawns, as well as this clear line of attack on the G file, has white at a disadvantage in mobility, has white at a long-term disadvantage in king safety, and it's just black's turn to move and all this together. I wouldn't put it as high as 2.1. Here we see the engine thinks black's ahead by just a smidge more than 2 points of material. In my opinion, it's not that strong an advantage. It might be like 1 point of material, but splitting hairs to some extent. And plus, why do you play the game? You play the game to play the game. Let's go back now to I like this move by black here. Bishop d6 is a strong move, creating a battery on the b8 h2 diagonal, bishop and queen. This could be a long-term threat on white's king side by black, except for frankly that I found knight takes d5. An attempt to capture the knight would leave white with so many options to attack black with a discovered check. The dangers of an uncastled king as late as move 13. There'd be this discovered check. Do some of this more directly. Let's do this more directly. So, depends on how black responds. So, alright, so if black captures with the bishop, I think the move is probably knight takes c6 check. And you can see white's already ahead in material. Black needs to stay off the light colored squares or else he'll be discovered check again along the A4, E8 diagonal. And it looks like black has to play extremely accurately to maintain any equality in the game. This is borne out by the computer's designation. Black has the move king to f8 indicated. Sorry, the computer designates the move king to f8 as about even if black makes that move, and that's the only move that saves black's hide from an oncoming storm of tactics and battle and warfare and combat. This is the only move, king f8 here. So that just indicates that black must play accurately to stay in the game. So that's with the bishop. As we saw it in the game, so this knight takes d5 was a very great move, a brilliant move. And we saw in the game the queen moved back to c8. What happens when one's under pressure is that there's mistakes. So this is in a slightly different position. The only correct is after knight takes d5. The only correct move for black was bishop d5, and we discussed that a moment ago. But then there was an only correct move of king to f8. Queen moves to c8, and the fork on b6 to a8 and c8 wins white the exchange. White's able to wrap this up rather nicely with a pursuant tactic. This is kind of complicated to explain all this, but the point is when queen comes to c6, involved I should say, when the queen comes to c6 check, attacking the rook, I like playing queen c6 to a8, queen takes a8, rather than knight takes a8. I think queen takes a8 kind of forces black to give up his queen for queen trade here. Well, actually, it's queen for queen and knight combination here. And that simplifies things for white to move on and calculate a winning endgame. It's a simplification. It's a good simplification. It's a really good simplification. Okay. White's mostly playing to avoid back rank mate and to simplify. You remember now, at this point, we're almost at the point in the game where so here I played rook c2, and after a moment or two of consideration, my opponent resigned. All subsequent black moves are made by the bot, or the practice mode, really. The practice versus computer, and the computer's playing on the highest level, so we can consider that black moves from here on are almost always computer best, or are computer best. So just how to finish this up. I've got an extra rook and 2 pawns. We face strong competition, like a computer playing at a rating of 3200. Sometimes that's not enough. For me, anyway. Throw Komodo on there, help, and Komodo will be able to take care of it. So I also like to finish these games up like this, just to keep my mind and eyes on their toes, so to speak, learning about end games, possible different types of strategies of end games, and how the pieces work together on a mostly open board. I think we can kind of get the idea here, so I'll just let the play go through straightforwardly. White is going to give up the exchange. This is clearly all over for black. White won. That's a loss and one is victor. It's a great game. I really enjoyed this game. And that's why I presented it here to you. Okay. Thank you for watching. I'm MoreGravity. Have a great night if you're here on the East Coast. Anywhere else in the world, have a great any part of the day that you're having. Thanks so much for watching.